These adventurers have played in the winds like a bird on the wing. They have become the pioneers of the last frontier of aviation. The delta-wing Rogallo-type kite was conceived by NASA as a re-entry mechanism for space vehicles. The design was rejected for the more simple parachute. Some innovators in California and Australia, however, recognized the potential of a delta-wing concept for a recreational hang glider.
Back up a little bit there.
Sky surfers from all over the eastern portion of the North American continent gathered recently on the Blue Mountain of southern Ontario. They came to exchange information and ideas, and simply to share together the joy of kite flying on a beautiful late fall weekend. The Rogallo-type kite is relatively inexpensive and can be neatly folded together, making it easy to store and to transport. It weighs on the average about 35 pounds and can be assembled in about 10 minutes. If kite flyers are going to steer clear of danger, certain mental attitudes are necessary.
This sport demands a lot of respect for wind, for material, for the workmanship of the kite, for the machine that you're flying. It just is a lot of respect.
You get a terrific cross-section of people in it, but the one thing is that they are a self-reliant type of individual who is interested in exploring his own personal control and is someone who has a bit of daring but has that personal control that lets him be a little daring successfully.
Andy Hall caught the flying bug at age 12.
It's exciting, it's a challenge. It's the greatest feeling I've ever had. I think the biggest drive for someone to fly is the idea that there's so much space to maneuver in. When you're on the ground, you're so confined. When you're in the air, you have a three-dimensional world all to your own.
The thrill of being in the air, completely on your own, with literally nothing underneath you or around you, is just an unbelievable sensation.
It's the finest experience because no one but you is involved. You're dealing with the elements, and the way in which you deal with those elements is your own personal ability. And it's a personal satisfaction that you don't get any other way these days. It's a freedom thing.
Only in a steady uphill wind is foot-launched hang gliding possible. Ideally, the wind velocity should be a constant 10 miles per hour. The flyer's body is supported by a swing seat or other form of harness which hangs from the kite's center of gravity. He controls his flight by shifting his body weight and maneuvering the triangular trapeze bar which hangs in front of him.
Once you can negate the sink rate of the kite by the upward rush of the air and stay in one place and soar, that's it. There's nothing else you can say. There's no better experience in hang gliding than soaring.
Hang gliding is easy. That is, until you try it. Sky surfer Bob Grant is getting tremendous lift from an ideal updraft. He's going to use the altitude he has gained to attempt a 360-degree turn. Because this is a dangerous maneuver and causes the kite to descend rapidly, kite flyers like to be a long way from the ground before they try it. This gives them time to recover if they get into trouble and go into a sharp dive. Notice how Bob uses his body as a pendulum to control the movement of the kite, and how he simply extends the sharp banking turn to achieve the full 360-degree radius. It's taken years for Bob to build up enough confidence and expertise to attempt such a maneuver. As a responsible kite flyer, it's only through a lot of hard work and practice that he's been able to judge himself ready to proceed to more advanced levels of hang gliding.
I think that is the biggest problem in this whole game, is trying to learn how to limit yourself or find where your bounds are, you know, when you're overstepping yourself and when it's time to slow down and think about it.
Think of wind as a fluid and envisage what this fluid would be doing, passing over trees and over, over little knolls in the hill and over ridges and that sort of thing. You can pretty well predict what's going to happen on a flight down the hill.
But for a euphoric flight down the hill, there is a price to pay. Some sky surfers prefer fixed-wing hang gliders more reminiscent of those of the pre-powered flight era. Generally, they're safer and perform better than the delta-wing kites. However, they're also more expensive and more difficult to assemble, store, and transport. This Quicksilver mono-wing hang glider has the advantages of rudder control and a descent rate about half that of a Regalo-type kite. This hang glider can be assembled from a kit in about 45 hours. Hang gliding is a year-round sport. For sky surfers who can ski, winter flying has advantages because skis make more stable platforms for takeoffs and landings than do feet.
on your skis, you have the ability to let them do the work, and you can focus all your attention on the kite, what you're doing in the kite, and how to react to what's happening in the kite, okay? In other words, it takes 50% of your mind that would, in the summer, be on your running, and puts 100% on what you're doing in the kite.
When you consider that a hang glider only flies at, perhaps 20 miles per hour is an average speed, then any variation in the wind speed, say 2 miles an hour even, is 10% of the flying speed of this craft. Now, if you get a gust of air at 10 miles per hour, that's a 50% change, which is, when you consider it, it's a pretty staggering change. I don't think I'm particularly brave, but I enjoy the sensation so much that my nervousness or, lack of bravery certainly isn't going to stop me from flying.
Today's novice flyer has the option of attending hang gliding school. Here, he or she can learn the basics of the sport from an expert. The first hours of training are spent at the safest possible altitude for beginners. After the student has gained confidence and a feel for the kite and the wind, he can be taught to take off and land. These are the two most critical elements of hang gliding. If the student is wise, he'll start his first flights near the bottom of the hill. To take off, he builds up speed by keeping the kite horizontal with the ground, and then increases its angle of attack so that it catches more wind and creates more lift. To land softly, he stalls the kite as he approaches the ground by pushing the trapeze bar up and out. Eventually, the sky surfer feels ready to try a run from the top of the hill.
When I said I was going to ride the thing, they just said, forget it. They all thought I was crazy.
Sky surfers are not the first aviators in history to be labeled crazy. Always, those pioneers who most directly confront the elemental miracles of nature appear as strange to observers with less courage. The cynics will never know how the wind that bombards the flyer's outer senses soothes his inner soul. They will never comprehend the wild freedom of surfing through the atmosphere on an invisible wave of air.